5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Let's start the party.
You're listening to Beyond Sight and Sound, live with Josh Kimmel and Leighton Harrington. If you want to be a part of our show tonight, call 419-549-5744.
All right, we are back. We're live and very glad to see, I might add. And you are, in fact, listening to Beyond Sight and Sound, metal detecting and treasure hunting radio for all the really cool people out there. And as I look into the chat, I see that people are dropping in. Thank you very much to those who hung in there with us last week as we dealt with our issue. Hopefully, though, we are getting out and we're clear tonight and coming through to the listeners. So if we are and you can hear us, holler in the chat. So we'll see how that goes. I see that we've had a few people come in. A couple of quick announcements. Leighton is not with us tonight. He is actually traveling right now. So this is without Leighton tonight. And that's all right. We'll still get through just fine. Everyone will have a good time. And, man, we've got some great stuff for you tonight. I always get excited when we get this gentleman on the show with us because he is just such a great guy to talk to. And, man, metal detecting and treasure hunting radio, when you talk about finds, this guy's making finds out of this world. It is just insane, some of the stuff he's finding, and really, really cool. We had him on a while back, and actually we just ran an archive of that show not too long ago. Very informative, very entertaining, and he's actually taken the time to drop in and share some news and information with us tonight as well. I'm sure you've seen him on the Science Channel, the TV series of the Meteorite Men. And tonight we actually have Steve Arnold here with us. How's it going, Steve?
It is exciting to be with you again.
Well, I know it was certainly an enjoyable time the last time. I got a number of messages from people that just thought that the information that you had, regardless of whether they were going to go out and try to find meteorites, was just very entertaining for them. They are very curious sort of people, and to hear this information, it better arms them if they choose to go out and look themselves, or at least know the right places to look for more information.
Sure. And I think that's the key, is being informed and doing your homework before you head out. And I think one of the things that resonates with people, not just the treasure hunters, and it's always great to get together with kindred spirits, like I like to say, but a meteorite can land anywhere. And you can't just find gold anywhere. You just can't find jewelry on a beach in the middle of Kansas. Well, maybe near some lakes in Kansas.
Maybe.
But yeah, maybe. But there's so many, if Jesse James never made it to Alaska, guess what? You're not finding the stolen lockbox, okay?
Right,
in
it's
Alaska.
not there.
Right. But a meteorite, you know what? It can land anywhere, and I guarantee you, meteorites that have landed, there have oftentimes been dozens, if not hundreds of people walk right over the rock, and they don't even realize it because they don't know what they're looking for.
Exactly. And in situations like that, knowledge is certainly key. The more information you have at your disposal, the better prepared you are in a said situation to properly try and identify a meteorite in the field.
Exactly.
I mean,
it's all about information.
Right. Many different types and kinds, and I mean, man, some days I'm not even sure how you guys keep it all straight. I just recently finished reading one of Jeff Notkin's books. Good grief, there's just so much information here to remember. I've got to read it again.
Well, it's kind of fun, and I hope you found his narrative and his writing style enjoyable. And I think that's the whole thing. That's been a real aspect that's been fun about doing my television show, is that we had a really awesome team of people in post-production that took literally 75 hours of footage for every episode and condensed it down into 44 minutes of an hour-long program. So literally 99% of the footage ended up on the proverbial cutting room floor. And, they cherry-picked that 1% to make an entertaining and informative and compelling show. And, that's part of it is no matter what. And I'll tell you what, whether you're sitting across from a table eating breakfast with someone and you're trying to communicate what you love, what your passion is, you need to bring the stories down into something that's entertaining, that's kind of funny, that will relate to the person you're talking to.
Yeah, exactly. Grab their attention, make them laugh a little bit.
Yeah. Hey, if you're going to do a radio show, that's kind of the same formula you might want to follow there too.
That's right. And we have been, we've been certainly working in entertaining stories lately.
Well, there you go. And you know what? You're still on after how many years now?
Yeah, that's right. I think, what is it now? I'm rolling into the third or fourth year of broadcasting.
There you go. So, how many shows have you done over those years? You've got people tuning in. Why? Because they have this, well, part of it is the thirst for knowledge. You want to learn one little clue, one little hint, one little mark on a map that you notice, and all of a sudden, you should change. You hit the mother lode. And so that's sort of, I think, the people that are tuning in right now and listening, they're the type of people that's like me. I remember people, I say people, whether it's a curator at a museum or a department head at a university where they have data, they have information in file cabinets. And I ask, hey, can I come in and go through your files? And they'll go, well, yeah, sure, you can come on in. What are you looking for? And more often than not, my answer is, I don't know what I'm looking for, but I'll know it when I see it.
Right. I will when I find it.
Yeah, exactly. And so I'm hoping, the people that are tuning in now, maybe they haven't even thought about hunting for meteorites, or maybe they've given it quite a bit of thought. They don't know what they're looking for until they find it. And hopefully in the next 45 minutes or so, we're going to be able to give them something that will trigger their mind, will get them thinking, going down a rabbit trail somewhere. Maybe they can do some research or follow up on something and end up out there where they're able to find a meteorite.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And I guess, we do have some things that you would like to cover on the show, but before we start, I see some new names in the chat. I know that the promo has been spread around quite a bit and gotten quite a number of comments and messages sent my way that, oh, wow, really great guest to have on. But for those who may not know, can you kind of give them a quick rundown of how you got involved and where you're at in the hobby?
Oh, yeah. It was 11 years ago. Coming up here in a few weeks, 11 years ago.
Ooh, an anniversary.
Yeah, I remember making the comment. I was a 13-year overnight success. So let's do the math. 11 plus 13, so 24 years ago, I started hunting meteorites, and for the first 13 years, I stumbled along. I made a living. I found enough and paid the bills. Went out and hunted more. And but 13 years ago, I stumbled upon a 1,430-pound palisite meteorite, 7 feet 4 inches below a Kansas wheat field, and apparently it was a really slow news week. And I don't belittle what I found. It's just, in the state of Kansas, every week there's lottery winners that make a whole lot more than I ever made off of that deal. But it was a news story. All of a sudden, it sort of went viral. And I found this meteorite. I ended up on the Today Show. And then all of a sudden, dominoes started falling. And I ended up with a television series with my really great friend, Jeff Knockin. And we had been hunting for years. And when I say for years, it's, 1 or 2 or 3 times a year we hit on an expedition. We go out and hunt meteorites together. And from that find, we ended up getting the hosting jobs of a television series on Discovery Science Channel. So here in the United States, we were mostly on Science Channel. We popped on Discovery a couple times. Internationally, we ended up all over the place, probably mostly on Discovery Channel. Interestingly, a year ago, I was in Morocco, and it happened twice to me. And once I was at a restaurant, and once I was in my hotel lobby of where I was staying one night, and Meteorite Men showed up on the television screen. And it's really unusual to see yourself on TV talking in Arabic.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah, so we were on Al Jazeera television of all places, even a year ago. So, that's kind of fun. So all around the globe, and assuming you're, not that you have representatives of every country, but you've got people around the globe tuning into this podcast. We've made it around the globe a few times with our show, and it's been fun. It's been really rewarding to be able to share our passion and our love and our enthusiasm for getting out and hunting for these visitors, alien visitors from another world.
Not to mention the fact you're having fun and you're still getting the information out there.
Yep, that's right. That's right.
Wow, that is awesome to hear that the show is still being played that much in various countries, and I believe people can even find a few episodes on YouTube.
Oh, yeah. You can trust YouTube to plug in. And I'd recommend it. If anyone has not seen our show, there is our pilot episode is an awesome one to hit on YouTube. Our Chile episodes, our Marasco episode, those are ones that are always fun. That and then the Russian one was really great because anytime you're on TV with drunk Russians, it's a good time.
That's a great outlook for it.
Yeah.
Well, and that's the important part, just having fun with it. I mean, I'm sure sometimes maybe things get a little rough, but you got to take the good with the bad.
Oh, that's true. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. You got to dig a few pull tabs to get that $20 gold piece.
Right. Quite a few sometimes. Well, and I would like to also direct people over to the Beyond Sight and Sound radio page on Facebook, where they'll see that there has been a link posted. There's also been a link posted in the chat tonight as well of a Kickstarter that you have recently created.
Oh, yes, the little Kickstarter program.
Yeah.
Oh, you that was an alley-oop for me to slam Duncan, and I just missed it. No, hey, no, yes, actually, I'm having fun with this, and I joke. Well, I'm not really joking. I really feel like a freshman girl in high school just being asked out by the star senior football quarterback.
Yeah, I mean, this is a big deal.
It is a big deal, and I it's one of these things that like almost every day I wake up and it soaks in a little bit deeper and deeper. I am over Thanksgiving weekend, and of course the people in the United States, that's a big deal. Everyone else in the world, what's Thanksgiving? But at the end of November, I am embarking on an expedition to the Sahara. That if everything goes right, and essentially that's what the Kickstarter is about. Go to the Kickstarter, you'll learn about. I am heading to the Sahara. I'm heading to the moon with Apollo 15 astronaut Al Worden. He's one of 24 men who have made it to the moon and back, and Al and I are going not by rocket ship. We're taking an airplane, and instead of a moon buggy, we're taking 4x4s, and we're heading to the Sahara, to a strewn field of lunar meteorites. Now, lunar meteorites are like they're like the ultimate meteorite, and some people might like that.
An astronaut, I would think.
Oh, well, right. You know what? Those Apollo astronauts, they came home, and they didn't get to keep it. You know, at best, a couple of them kept a little bit of moon dust that were on their patches. They took off the uniform off their spacesuits, but nobody got to come home with a moon rock. And a lot of people go, well, wait a minute, moon rock, you're talking, isn't that illegal? Yeah. The stuff the Apollo astronauts brought back, that is illegal to own. However, if you look at the moon, it's full of craters. You have asteroids that smash into the moon. There's no atmosphere on the moon, so it doesn't slow the asteroids down. They blast out a crater, and there's no atmosphere to slow the rock from being blasted out into space. And so there's a lot of the moon that is missing, and some of that has made it to Earth. And there are, I'm going to guess somewhere around 120, maybe 130 meteorites, 1,000 that have been tested tiny fraction of 1% have originated from the moon. We know this for a fact. And I know where there's a place where 8 to 10 pieces have already been found of this one meteorite, and we're going to go back and try to find some more pieces.
Those sound like very good odds. If you know an area where there's been that many come up, chances are good there's more there.
Yeah, there's a treasure hunt. There's a treasure hunter thinking right there. Yeah, if there's something been shown up that many times, there's a reason, and there's a reason why there should be more that have yet to be found. We're going to go out there and find them.
Right. I mean, when you start to see repetition like that, you begin to see a pattern, and then all of a sudden you find yourself going, there's been a few more. This is not a fluke.
Right. And meteorite, it is a very common thing when a meteor comes into our atmosphere, the violent whacking of the rock into our atmosphere. You run your hand through the air and you barely feel it, but when a rock's coming 1,000 miles an hour, it feels it when it hits our atmosphere, and that sudden breaking will jar it and break it apart. And like a cookie crumbling, you get some big pieces and you get a lot of little pieces, and then the laws of physics will determine where on the ground that they fall. And if anyone's watched any of my episodes, about every episode talks about the strewn field, and there is this elliptical pattern, usually at least a few miles long and a mile and a half wide, kind of an alley where the pieces are distributed across that area. And we know where the pieces have been found, and we're going to go set up camp. We got a moon base set up. It's going to be, we're going to live like sultans. The company we've hired that does tour guides, that high wall tent, there's beds in them, there's carpet, there's a dining tent with a full-time cook, latrine, showers, and we're out in the middle of the Sahara Desert. Yeah, it's going to be. Oh, by the way, and did I mention there's a Apollo 15 astronaut who's going to be talking about campfire stories?
Right.
Under the moon. We're going to be underneath the moon at night. He's going to be talking to us about, the glory days. Yeah.
And I believe there's even a few of those nights that will be a new moon.
That's very true. So if there's anybody out there who appreciates astronomy, those intangible things that you look through a telescope for, there's going to be some dark skies unlike anything.
Yeah, I can just imagine the middle of the Sahara Desert at night. You're not going to get a better view of the stars.
No, not at all. Not at all. So it's fun. Let me drop this little Easter egg for you. There's going to be at least one meteorite man there.
Oh, hey.
Yeah. Okay. So you got the hint of the scoop here. It's not totally finalized, but there might be someone else been and join us on this trip at no extra charge.
Wow. Well, that's awfully nice of them.
And there might even be a camera or two rolling, but we'll see.
Oh yes. Hopefully, if there is, we may see some of that in the.
Yeah.
Now, another thing, too, I guess it might be nice to point out, since you had brought up the topic of the strewn field and all of that, some people that I've talked to recently that were kind of looking forward to the show did not realize about the misconception that Hollywood puts on meteorites, that they don't land, hot to the touch or anything.
Sure. Yeah, and this is probably the biggest one, and actually it's really kind of good to that this is out there, because anytime that someone sends me an email going, oh, last night there was this really big meteor that came in, and it hit my front yard, and it caught it on fire, and in the middle of the burnt grass was this rock. I want to sell it for $1 million. You want to buy it? And
absolutely not.
Right. It's about as blatant as I found this lockbox with Jesse James' signature carved in the top of it, and a Wells Fargo box. You want to buy it?
Right. By the way, I found it in Alaska.
Yeah, right. By the way, I found it in Alaska. Exactly. So, it's kind of fun because the people that, and trust me, I make it sound like it's a joke, but really people do this. And, bless their hearts, they don't know better, and it's pretty easy to define. Look, here's the physics of it. You've got a rock floating through space for billions of years. It is as close to absolute zero as anything can get temperature-wise. For a couple seconds, 3 or 4, maybe 5 seconds, it is burning through our atmosphere. The surface of it gets hot, but inside it is still very, very, very frozen. And then it slows down to the point where it stops, the friction stops the fireball. Really, the rock's not on fire. Meteorites don't burn oxygen in the air that is on fire, not the rock. Now, the rock will heat up on the surface. The crust will form, it'll blade off.
Yeah, like the friction of it coming through the atmosphere.
Exactly, right. And then all of a sudden it slows down, and for the next 2 or 3 or 4 minutes, it is falling through 50 degrees below zero atmosphere. And then the final mile or so, it starts to warm up, but it only takes a couple seconds for it to make it that last little distance, and boom, it hits the ground. So most of the time, when meteorites are found, when someone witnesses them falling and they walk over and they pick it up, that's only happened a few times in history, but when it's happened, they're actually freezing cold because inside it's still absolute zero, and that cold is working its way out, and the heat of the atmosphere is starting to move its way into it. Yeah, meteorites are cold. They don't catch it. Now, Miss O'Leary's lantern up in Chicago, if a meteorite hit the barn and knocked the lantern over, then yeah, it might have caused a fire. But a rock hitting the ground on fire, no, doesn't happen. They burn out 5 to 10 miles up.
Right. Well, that's good to let people know, because sometimes people don't think about this stuff.
It is, and you know what? I tell you what, the optical illusion, if you stand outside underneath a tree and you look up and you see the moon through the branches of the tree, you would swear that the moon is caught in the branches of the tree. Optically, you can't differentiate distance from one position. And so when a fireball comes in, it is tremendously bright, but literally people 200, 300, 400, 500 miles away are seeing the same thing, and you think it landed just on the other side of the barn.
Right in your backyard or something, where in all theory, it could have landed a state away.
Oh, yeah, easily. And so, you need to triangulate it. You need to find somebody from a third or another perspective to get the 3 angles on it, to triangulate it. And fortunately, there is a website. It's the American Meteor Society. And you can just Google what was that in the sky, and then they'll pop up. And you can go to their website, and every time there's a fireball, and if it's a good one, there's going to be 50 to 100 to 500 reports of people all over the region, usually in 3 or 4 or 5 or 6, 7 states, that will say, this is where I was standing, this is what I saw, this is where it started, this is where it ended. And you get enough people, and any defense attorney in America is going to tell you, the best thing you love to testify, to stand as an eyewitness, because you can throw away eyewitnesses.
Right.
Now you get a camera that exactly where it's at, and exactly the direction it's pointed, and you can pinpoint where it starts and where it stops. Hey, that is reliable data. And so, yeah, there are sources out there where we can capture that accurate data. We can you get 300 or 400 or 500 people. The averages are going to be pretty good. There's going to be a few that were drunk, and there were a few people that, were facing south instead of north, and they type it in wrong. But you average out the wackos, and you can get a pretty good idea. And then also we're looking for sonic booms on the fireball. So anything that's coming in that's moving faster than the speed of sound is going to create a sonic boom. And anybody within 30 or 40 miles of where the rocks land are going to hear a very loud sonic boom, if not multiple sonic booms.
Right.
And so that's always the big thing, is did someone hear the sonic booms when the thing came in? And if there's reports of multiple people hearing the sonic booms and the timing's right, and then it's like, okay, there's a very, very good chance there are rocks on the ground to be found.
Yes, absolutely. If they were close enough that they heard that sonic boom, odds are very good you're in the near vicinity, we'll say.
You are, exactly. Yep.
Well, I would say that should certainly put to rest a lot of the misnomers, in a sense, that Hollywood has put into the movies. And we've got a caller. Go ahead, caller.
Hey, good evening, Josh.
Well, Mr. Bill.
Hey, I've actually got a question for Steve.
Okay, Bill?
I just so happen to have him here.
Well, that's the reason I'm calling. Hey, Steve, you were just talking about the strewn fields, and there's only a few meteorites that were actually witnessed, eyewitness events.
Right.
I live 20 minutes from New Concord, Ohio, and I believe it was 1881, and it's actually called the New Concord Meteorite.
Yes.
Obviously, I'm an avid metal detector, so what do you think my possibilities are of actually finding a meteorite near there? Because I know the impact site is the site of the college out there now.
Okay, well, super. And how many pieces were found there? Refresh my memory, because it's been a while. I remember doing a little bit of research. But
I think there was a 57-pound chunk that's down in the, I believe it's in, I want to say Marietta College. And then there was another 47-pound chunk that's, I think, still at the Muskingum University there in Concord.
Okay.
Nice size.
It's been a while since I've looked this stuff up, so don't quote me on that. But my question is, I've got some friends that have farmland near there, like 50 acres, and what would we be looking for, with our metal detectors? I mean, I know in order to be a meteorite, it has to have a composition of nickel and iron, right?
Correct. And there's going to be silicates with that one, so. It's going to be about 10% metal, and in that mix of iron and nickel. So to answer your question directly, between a 47-ish pound piece and a 57-ish pound piece, that's the prime zone to look. Now, I guarantee you there are 5 and 10 and 3 pounders and half a pound and 10-gram pieces that fell off of it. You don't take a cookie. You don't take a chocolate chip cookie and
I know where you're going with that. That's what I'm after.
Break it in half. There's gotta be some little crumbs. And you know what? There could even be a 100-pounder or a 500-pounder also. All right? So the two pieces that were found may have been little pieces. We don't know. Odds are there's a lot more little pieces than there are big pieces. So that's a very good place to start. If you know where those two pieces were found,
Absolutely.
and they're within a close enough size that it could really be deceptive. Because typically the laws of physics will say the smaller pieces will slow down first and start to drop, and the bigger pieces with more inertia will punch deeper through the atmosphere before they slow down and start to go. And that's your perimeter. On one end, you're going to have little pieces. On the big end, you're going to have big pieces, or the big piece. And then you have to allow for some wind blowing, and sometimes the stringbill can actually end up looking like a banana. It'll curve sideways because the little ones are falling longer for a longer period of time, and the higher winds up high can blow them off to the side a little bit. But if you know where the little one and the big one is, then everything in between is fine. Now, in this particular case, you've got a couple pretty big pieces. And so you can't with that much determine a direction of fall, even if you knew where both of those were found exactly. So I would say anywhere within a mile of either one of those two pieces it's very promising. Odds are little pieces that are going to be golf ball size or smaller. They're probably going to be 5 or 10 miles away. So you can imagine statistically, if you've got the big falls or the middle of the watch dial, you're if you go take a little piece of 50-acre piece of land, the odds are probably like 95% that the little pieces aren't in that little slice of the pie. But they might be. The closer you get, the better that there's something there. So, yeah, after 130 years or whatever, it's going to be a dark brown and maybe even slightly rusty looking in appearance. It'll be smooth. I mean, never are porous and rough. Well, I say never. 99.9% of the time they're not going to be. In the new Concorde case, they won't be. It's like an ice cube being blasted with a torch, a welder's torch. Okay,
right. And that would be called orientation marks, right?
Yeah, right. It's going to be smooth. It's going to be melted down, and there's going to be a smooth crust on it, and it's going to be a dark brown, depending on how much moisture and water has been there for the last 130 years, and depending on if it's at the kind of at the high area or if it's sitting in a low area where it's soaks in water. The more water, the more rusty it's going to be, more orange, almost like a nail, like you'd find a nail with a metal detector. That orange rust is kind of what you're looking for. And definitely, if you get a rock that jumps to your magnet, especially if there are no air bubbles in it, trust me, guys, there's no air in outer space. Okay, so meteorites don't have air bubbles in them. Okay, yeah.
Hey, that's great information, and believe me, if I intend on pursuing this, so if I find something, you guys will be the first ones to know.
Oh, that is awesome.
Exactly.
So
wow, sorry. I was just gonna say if there's like a farm site or another old home site, where you can pick up some, 1798 silver dollars or something, there's the double whammy. Maybe get a meteorite.
Yeah, double.
I only got this scrape bust $50. Oh well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, that's possible around this area.
Bill.
That's possible around this area because our town was founded in 1797. So.
Yep. There you go.
We'll see. So, hey, Steve, I appreciate the answer. You helped me out a lot, and like I said, I intend on pursuing this as soon as the crops are off the fields, and we'll go from there. Appreciate your time.
There you go. Good luck and happy hunting.
Right, thanks, guys. Good night.
Nice. Well, it sounds like you may have put him right on the hunt, Steve.
Well, is this a good thing or a bad thing? I don't know. Maybe I should have just discouraged them. There's no chance you'll find a meteorite. Just go look for the half cent. But no, they're everywhere. They really are. I think one of the really nice things about meteorites is that it is a little bit like detecting for gold, for example. If you find a gold nugget somewhere, guess what? There's a reason why it's there. And there's a reason why no one else has found it before you. Right. Which means there's probably a really good reason there might be other pieces of that same stuff nearby where you just found it, because someone else didn't find it before, and something in nature provided this item to you. And that goes for beach hunting or hunting in a park for coins that fell out of someone's head on a or whatever.
Your odds are increased if you put yourself in the right spot.
Right. And so you can hunt and strike out, and all of a sudden you find the vein.
Right. It only takes one good find to make it all worthwhile.
And it makes the next one a whole lot easier after you found the first one. So if Bill finds a third piece of the new Concord, then he's on track to. It's going to be far easier for him to find number 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 324, whatever. So
right,
that's a fun part.
Well, like you said, your analogy with the cookie. Once you find that first one, then you just follow the trail of crumbs, so to speak.
Oh, yeah. In our first season, we did an episode at Gold Basin, first season of Meteorite Men. Go to YouTube, watch our Gold Basin episode. A very good friend of both myself and of Jeff, Professor Jim Cree. He was a retired professor, University of Arizona. He was nugget hunting, nugget shooting just for the fun of it. And he was up by Lake Mead, up not so far from Las Vegas, on the Arizona side. He started hitting these hot rocks. And one of them he picked up. He goes, this kind of looks like one of those meteorites. And he ended up taking it into the University of Arizona where he had retired from. And sure enough, it was a meteorite, a new meteorite. Well, I don't know, maybe now, fast forward 15, 20 years, there's been 15 or 20,000 pieces of that meteorite found.
Wow.
Right? In fact, I was at a Gem and Mineral show in Springfield, Illinois, here, a year and a half ago, and a guy came up to me and said, you know what? I saw your Gold Basin episode. And you know what? I went out hunting gold nuggets at Gold Basin for 12 years. And I kept running. And every time I found a hot rock, I'd throw it in my bag. And, and while I'm out hunting, I don't even want to waste my time. If my detector picks it up, it goes in the bag. And then I get back to camp at night, and he goes, I park my RV in the same place every year. And I would sit there over dinner, I'd eat dinner, and I'd go through my bag of stuff. And if it was a piece of quartz that had gold in it, great. If it's just a nugget, great. If it was a hot rock, okay, you set it aside. And then he would take his hot rocks and he'd step outside of his RV and he would throw the hot rocks. He'd kind of like see how far he could throw them. And when word broke that they were finding meteorites out there, that 13th year, he drove his RV to the exact same campsite. And you know what he did?
Went and hunted his trash pile.
Yeah, exactly. And I think it was something like 30 meteorites over those years.
Oh, good grief.
That he had thrown. That he went and re-found them. Yeah, and so, I mentioned earlier, people walk over meteorites. That's a case of where, and I'll tell you what, and that's a common thing out there at the Gold Basin, is that people will look nowadays, they hunt in because the metal detector guys, they would take their hot rocks and they would toss them like right at the base of the bushes, where it was really hard for them or anyone else to hit the hot rock, because it was so tucked away in the branches of that. It's just a courtesy. Instead of putting it in your pocket, you make it where it's not easy to waste your time or waste the next guy's time, chasing a hot rock. And a lot of meteorites have been thrown away out there. There's still a lot of them out there that are waiting to be found that someone has already detected and they already discarded. So
nice. I mean, unfortunate for them, but good for us.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, you can't beat that at all. So it sounds like you've got plenty of projects on the plate you could be checking into then.
There are. There's a lot of, and it's like we all have a list of places that, if time and money were not an object, where would we go? And it's that's the fun. That's the thrill of the hunt.
Right. Yeah, I can certainly relate with that myself. Well, it sounds like there's plenty going on there then, which is great. It sounds like it's still keeping you busy. I mean, obviously you're not, I believe anyway, Meteorite Men has been kind of, put into syndication, so to speak. They're running reruns.
Yeah.
Filming new episodes.
Right. We did 3 seasons. We did 23 episodes, and people ask all the time, well, why did they take it off? Why, and first of all, little shows like ours, and it's a little show compared to the, Keeping Up with the Kardashians and American Idol. We're little. Big shows they cancel. They send out a press release. We are not doing it. With little shows, they just don't get around to renewing them. And basically we sort of, well, here's the thing. They would not let us plant any meteorites on our show, unlike about every other show that's out there.
Right.
Whether it's treasure hunting or American Pickers or Pawn Stars or whatever that's out there. Things are set up, and they insisted that we not plant anything.
Right,
but
it all had to be the real deal.
But they also insisted we had to find something in every episode.
Nothing like the pressure on.
No kidding. I tell people, when you see me on my show, and Jeff and I, when we're excited we found something, it's not really because there's a big payday. It's like, yes, we can wrap this episode and get on to the next place. Right. For at least today, the pressure's off. And so so the bottom line is that if all that wasn't enough, we only had 4 or 5 days to find something for real in the wild. And it wasn't like, if we were somewhere for 5 days and we didn't find anything, let's just stay another day or 2 or 3 or a week, because they pre-scheduled all our airplane flights for the entire crew, that when we left one spot, we got on a plane and went to the next spot, and the next, and the next, and the next. We were somewhere and we couldn't find something. That wasn't... I love to tell people this. Drama on television is wonderful. Drama in television executives' offices is not so wonderful. Exactly. Yeah. So, basically, let's just put it this way. Our 3rd season, we went over budget because we had to keep going to more and more places to get our 8 episodes. And when the numbers were looked at after the season was done, they got really, really scared that we couldn't produce a 4th season. Finding something in 4 or 5 days.
Yeah. We're not happy.
Right. And you know what? That's fine. We knew, we might have been able to do a 4th season. But maybe not. Or may have been really disappointing. So that's sort of like every star football player at the end of the season as they're getting older. Do I come back and have a miserable season, or am I John Elway and retire a Super Bowl champion? And so it was actually out of our choice. We would have loved to come back for a fourth season. But in our particular case, when the deadline rolled around, they didn't bother to call us back. And so we got the hit, and that's fine. We had a wonderful production company. We had a wonderful network. They did not fleece us out. And I'll tell you what, folks, you sign a contract with these television folks, and they can do just about anything they want with you. And, we have 23 episodes that my kids and my grandkids and my great-grandkids will be able to watch, and I don't have to be ashamed that, they, pretended to make me sound like, I don't know, I did something strange with my dog. And some TV shows would do that just for ratings,
Right. So in a sense, you're going, I can at least sleep at night because I didn't sell myself out. They didn't portray me as someone that I wasn't.
Right. And you know what? It was entertaining. It was good. The people that, right now, we get it, this is what it was real. There's a truth that rings through in this. People get it. I don't care if you're into, hunting platinum, or if you're hunting beach jewelry, or if you're going after Civil War artifacts or whatever. There is this same thread of the thrill of the hunt, that there's something out there that's rusting away, and somebody's got to go get it, and, someone lost it, and there's a connection back. And well, no one lost a meteorite, but you know what? They do contain their time capsules in our particular case from the early days of the solar system. And they tell a story, and each meteorite has a story. And when scientists are able to get in there and analyze them, they're able to learn things that cannot be learned any other way. And it's fun. It's a rewarding, sometimes often delayed in that respect, when something new comes to science and something's found that you're able to contribute. And, if everybody on the planet would do a little bit towards contributing, then instead of just everybody taking, we'd live on a better planet.
We'd be in a whole lot better place.
Yeah.
Absolutely, I agree for sure. What happens, say, in a situation where you're out in an area and you find maybe a new meteorite that hasn't been located in that area before, a new type of meteorite?
So, we have in the world of meteoritics a really wonderful relationship with academia. You have the hobbyists, you have the people that are in it for profit, and then you have the people that are in it for the science. And those three will often conflict in a lot of areas. For example, paleontology, or anthropology. Someone comes in and, hey, there's an old campsite. Oh, let's start digging. And information is lost in the chase for an arrowhead, or a piece of pottery.
Right.
And it's not just the piece, it's the context and where it's found. And so, and then you have, institutions that say, yeah, this should be a site for, professional scientists. Okay, when can you come out and professionally do a dig here? Oh yeah, how about in 85 years from now that our budget will allow it? And and it really there's this tug of war. Well, with meteorite, it doesn't matter where. It is all about the luck of where the Earth was in its rotation when this thing smashed into it. It has nothing to do with whether it hit the Empire State Building, or it hit the Washington Monument, or it hit your mother-in-law's living room. It's scientifically, it doesn't matter. Now, historically, it's kind of fun when something whacks something or someone. Yeah, okay, now you have a piece of history, not just a piece of science. So there's a double angle to that. But when something brand new is found, the bartering that happens here is that to get it officially classified, the finder, the one who's submitting it to be classified, is required to donate 20% or 20 grams, whichever is less. So if it's a 10-gram rock, you've got to donate 2 grams. 10,000 gram rock, you have to donate 20 grams. 20 is the most. And that type sample is what it's called, is given to an institution. And really, a 2-gram piece, they can get everything they would ever want to know out of that 2-gram piece, 99.99% of the time. Occasionally, you have a rock that's so weird, and there's different zones that scientists want pieces of all, it's just so weird. But that's really a small case. So whether you're giving away the 2 grams or the 20 grams in donation to the science, in exchange, they classify it and do the work on it, which is about a $300 process. And then they classify it, and then there's a type sample. So science, even if every 100% of what's left over ends up in private hands and someone's house burns down and they, cart it away in bulldozers, at least that type sample has been preserved for science. Nice. And, so there's a symbiotic relationship here. And you know what? A meteorite falls, pick a state, New Mexico, pick, Kansas, Iowa, whatever. Scientists, the researchers aren't always able to just drop everything they do. Some of them teach classes. Some of them run museums. Some of them do research. And they just can't go, oh, hey, I'm checking out for 2 weeks, and I'm going to go look for a piece of this rock. But
so they're relying on the hunters to find them and bring them in then.
Yes, exactly. And they come on a silver platter. Here, hey, will you classify this, and we'll give you a chunk of it. Oh, okay.
Nice.
So it really is. It's a wonderful thing, and it allows that. And then you have a collector community that helps support the hunters that do the hunting, and the dealers that sometimes facilitate this process. And it's a good thing. And occasionally a rock will be so amazing. Well, let me back up. There are a couple institutions, and these institutions aren't. It usually doesn't happen for more than 10 or 15 years at a time. But an institution will get a curator or someone that's head of a department that is like, we want rocks. And it's like, we will either buy them or we will trade for them. And some of the institutions have millions of dollars worth of meteorite in their inventory that about 99% of that material is overkill from a scientific standpoint. And so a new meteorite comes along, and it might be worth $10,000. And a museum or a research institution, a college or university might go, wow, we don't have the money in the budget to buy that rock, but you've got $10 million worth of meteorites. Would you trade us some of our old meteorites for your new one? Nice. And a lot of dealers will go, yeah, what do you got? You bet. I'll take some of this, this, and this, and I'll give you a chunk of this. And they go, okay, great. Doesn't cost anyone money. The trade's made, and everybody's happy. And then the dealer ends up with something that oftentimes is historic or pretty or, worth something,
nice specimen piece.
Right. And then there's collectors out there going, oh, my God, I've been waiting 48 years for this meteorite to come available. How much is it? Here.
Right. I want it. Got to have it. And we've got another caller.
Hey, Josh, it's Brandon. How are you?
Hey, good.
I got a question for Steve. I'm curious to know how meteorites are dated. I mean, can they be carbon dated, being that they're a non-carbon based, like Mark was saying in the chat room? How exactly do you date how old this rock is that you're finding?
Right. Okay. Great question. Brandon, you have just went over my intelligence level on being able to answer that. And I'm not saying I'm really stupid, okay, but no, it's not carbon, but there's other dating methods that are able to do some things. And some of it is really geeky, and it's over my head. I don't quite understand it. There are rocks that like a slice of a rock, or you cut the rock in half and they'll go, okay, this zone of this rock dates at 4.56 billion years old. And see this little melt vein in here? So 2.8 billion years ago, an asteroid hit that asteroid and cracked the rock, and it squirted melted, molten rock into that crack, and then 780,000 years ago, another impact happened, and it dislodged it, and then it landed here 32,000 years ago. And I'm sitting here going, wow, that's cool. That you think you know that. I don't understand it, but yeah, there are multiple ways that it's almost like a crime scene. There is evidence left. There's evidence left in the rocks that tell about the journey that happened to get here. And some of it is really amazing what they're able to calculate. And
so there's no red book for meteorites.
There really isn't in that respect. There was this really big fall a couple years ago, about 4 years ago, in Suttersville, California, if that rings to anybody, where the first gold nugget was found in California. And 4 years ago, a meteorite landed, literally. I bought a piece from a friend of mine who found a piece of the meteorite in the parking lot at Sutter's Mill. And there really was a new gold rush where people ran out there. And there was a bunch of scientists had started looking at this, and they looked and they said, wow, this particular meteorite is missing this certain element. Certain things were missing in it, and we believe that the heat of the fireball depleted these amino acid stuff, I think, out of the rock. And there were some vitals that were missing. And a buddy of mine, it was really interesting, just Sutter's Mill, I struck out. I didn't find anything, but I was able to buy a couple pieces from someone. And a good friend of mine who had a store just literally a stone's throw away from mine, was getting his doctorate in meteoritics, of all things. I said, hey, Robert, you want to come over and see what I had? So he comes running over with his loupe, and I showed him, and he starts looking. He goes, oh, can I take a picture of this? I went, sure. And he goes, can I send a picture of this to somebody else? I went, sure. And then he comes back and he goes, how would you like to co-author a scientific paper with me? And I went, sure. Sure. And so he, looking through his loupe, discovered that there were 3, possibly 4 clasts in this one cut. And my rock was the very first one that was sliced of this meteorite. And I got a lot of hell from a lot of people. How dare you cut these important scientific... Well, guess what? We cut it. He had his loupe out. He starts looking at it, and he sees something in there. And then all of a sudden, he ends up being one of the co-authors, one of 72 co-authors of this giant paper for what was it? Was it Science and Nature? Nature, I think. Yeah, it's a long time ago. Anyway, but what he saw was that there were different clasts, and his theory was, no, these volatiles that were missing in the rock happened because of collisions in space, and the heat that was caused when one asteroid and another hit this parent body, and the heat of the regolith, the mixing up of these rocks, is what made these gases escape, not the fireball itself. And so he was able to throw that theory out, consortium of scientists, and all of a sudden they went, oh, yeah, you're right. You're probably right. And so, it was like all of a sudden, and sometimes when scientists would go off in a direction, it's sort of like a ship, and you just don't turn on a dime. It's sort of like, so they're all chasing after this, oh, the fireball's, making this meteorite lose some stuff, and he goes, oh, no, wait a minute, this all happened in space. And so there was this sense of, wow, I co-authored the paper, which basically meant he wrote the paper and I read it and said, yeah, you spelled my name right. And so that was my contribution. But, no, it was fun. We were able to contribute. It was one of the biggest stories of the year for meteoritics. And a lot was learned by that, and the contribution was significant. And so, in little ways, it's finding an extra piece to the really big puzzle, and the more pieces that get put together, the more we understand. And that's the same way whether you're hunting a Revolutionary War site or anything else. You're trying to reconstitute history and the story, and it's fun to contribute that way.
Nice. Well, I think hopefully that answers your question, Swans.
It did, and the only other question I had as a follow-up to that is, what is the oldest confirmed that Steve has actually found?
Ooh.
Oh. So we where our pilot episode was at the Brenham Streamfield in Kansas, we actually teamed up with a scientist from NASA and some scientists from Rice University, and we found a rock in the Brenham Streamfield, and it ended up very conclusively being in the Pleistocene area. So it's like somewhere around 10,000 years ago. That was one we definitely know because just where it was located in the strata. I've found others that are much older, much more weathered. One of our we had a dry lake bed episode of Meteorite Men, and we were thinking, this thing maybe broke up 1,000 or 2,000 years ago. And Dr. Lawrence Garvey from Arizona State University, he was our guest scientist at the time on that episode, and he disagreed. He thought it was over 100,000 years old because of the layer of the patina that had gathered on the meteorite specimens. And so, yeah, I mean, a lot of it's way back there a ways. So there was some speculation with the Munyanlusta meteorites we found in Sweden, because glaciers move them around, and they found out there was actually 2 different glaciers that moved them in 2 different directions, and so they can go back, at least they were older than that. So yeah, there's some old dirt out there.
Wow. Well, what did you think? My
question, and great information. This is something totally different, and I think you piqued Bill's interest anyway in the meteorites. I did look it up while Bill was talking. There are no confirmed meteorites found in New Hampshire, but it doesn't mean I won't keep my eye to the ground a little bit more closely next time I throw my hot rocks in the bushes or against the bottoms of trees.
Yeah, maybe it just hasn't been confirmed because nobody's ran across it yet.
Right.
Exactly.
And, one of the other things, though, to keep in mind, not to throw water on your campfire or anything here, but, 10,000 years ago, where you're sitting right now is what, a mile underneath an ice glacier. So a lot. So really, the meteorites to be found in your area have to be, not all that old. You get some other areas in the U.S. or other areas of the world. You go down to Chile. We did one of our episodes, our San Juan episode. That surface there is, I think it was 30 million years old, maybe 40 million years old. So the rocks that are sitting on top of the ground were sitting there 40 million years ago. Well, over 40 million years of falls, you have a lot more accumulation of meteorites and it's an area where very little rain has ever happened, and so there are some places that's a little easier than others. So New Hampshire, you might have to wait for a witness fireball, and as thin of a sliver of real estate as you guys have, the rock could actually keep going to Vermont or Maine or Rhode Island or up into Canada. But I guarantee you there are some rock around, and keep your eyes open. Keep a rare magnet with you.
Well, there you go. So that works for you? Yeah, looks like it did, because he just cut out there on us. Looks like he got his answers, and man, that's a long time for a rock to be laying around.
Yeah.
That's a little older than me. But I know you had mentioned earlier... Oh, go ahead.
No, I was just laughing at your comment. I'm sorry.
Oh.
A little older than you, yeah.
Yeah, just by a bit, yeah. But I noticed you had mentioned earlier you weren't sure how much time you had. I didn't know if you had any more time, if we had a few more callers or not.
Yeah, I've got a few more minutes. We can put some of them. You bet.
Okay, well, we just so happen to have another one that came in. Go ahead, caller.
Yes, this is a question for Steve.
Mm-hmm.
I need to kill my sound here.
Yes, that would be appreciated.
Thank you. I remember reading back in the 70s where once the scientists at NASA and other places were analyzing the rocks they brought back from the moon, that they determined or had a theory that in the ancient past, when the planet was forming, that another planet, something like the size of Mars, had collided with our planet, and that's how they theorized that the moon was formed.
Yes, and I believe that is still holding the credit for it.
That's what I thought.
Nice.
And so essentially, and that was a long time ago, and anything on the surface of our planet has been altered by weathering processes and other things over the billions of years. And so there's not much in the way of on the side of the road to lead to that, other than what they figured out through their analytical processes. So now there are moon rock. There are pieces of moon rock that are on Earth. There's pieces of Mars rock that's on the Earth, and that's all that we know definitively, that we have those two parent bodies that have contributed things, meteorites that are in our inventory right now.
So that's still the prevailing theory, that a planet, something the size of Mars, struck Earth, and that's how the moon was formed?
Right. So some of the rock splashed out, some of it assimilated with Earth, and we're all like a big glowing blob of lava at this time. So it's sort of, it's like mixing a liquid strawberry milkshake with a liquid chocolate milkshake. Afterwards you can't really tell what's what because it just mixes together.
I like the analogy, though. That's a good way to explain it.
Yeah, maybe I'm getting hungry. I don't know.
Well, no, I mean, that puts it very layman term, easy for anyone to understand.
Right.
Which is good.
It is good.
So I guess that answers your question?
Yeah, it does.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Well, thanks for the call. Well, so we at least got one more in there, and before you do wind up having to go, because I don't want you to have to cut out there real quick before you give everybody the information of where they can find you if they're interested in maybe purchasing meteorites. And
Sure.
Also, a lot of people don't realize you're even doing some other things now, like the ghost tours.
We are doing, so for 4 years, I ran the only brick and mortar meteorite store in America. And it was a lot of fun and very rewarding, and it was okay profitability wise. It wasn't phenomenal, but it was enjoyable. And for a variety of reasons, we chose at the end of last year to go ahead and close that down. Coincidentally, my home is in Eureka Springs, Arkansas, which is a very touristy little town in the Ozark Mountains, a Victorian town, very unique town. We end up, every year we hit, the top 10 list of best small towns in America. And it's a great place to live. It's a great place to visit. And sitting in the meteorite store for 4 years, I would get two questions over and over and over again. Where's a good place to eat? What's there to do in town? And we have a lot of good restaurants. We didn't have all that much to do. And actually a big part of our tourists actually like to come here and do nothing. Just get a hotel room and do nothing but go out and eat and then go back to the hotel room or go to the bar.
So kind of relax and go, well, that was nice. It
is, right. We're like the antithesis of everywhere else where it's like, oh my goodness, we have to get up at 7 a.m. and we have to, whether it's Vegas or New York or Washington or Orlando, we got to cram everything we can in our vacation. Our town is a little more laid back, but nonetheless, there's still people who wanted to do something and that would happen in our town. And, I have this sincere enjoyment in sharing stories, sharing adventure and the thrill of the hunt. And you know what? I mean, as crazy as it sounds, and it's sort of kind of anti-science if you want to get really analytical about it, but it's like, hey, there are people that enjoy hunting for ghosts, and our town had a lot of ghost stories. And it was like, hey, you know what? We probably have on our inventory maybe 5 hours worth of ghost stories. And so it's like, well, let's cull it down to about 2 hours, and can we make it fun and entertaining for the hardened skeptic and for the true believer in the supernatural? Can they both, and anyone in the middle of the spectrum, come and enjoy and be entertained on a ghost tour? And so we a couple buddies of mine, we got together. We crafted this ghost tour, and we started doing it, and it's taken off, and it's fun. What I love the most about it is I can hire someone to drive our tour bus, and I can hire someone to be a tour guide, and I can take off and chase meteorites. And when I owned a meteorite store, you just can't hire someone for $15 an hour to come in and sell meteorites. It's sort of like, okay, oh yeah, you have the TV show. Oh, okay, you can sell meteorites. Now, my wife did a phenomenal job. In fact, my wife was like times better at selling the meteorite jewelry than I was. And my daughter did a really decent job. But the point is it really had us tethered there. My passion is out hunting. And so it was like, if we were making $20 million a year, yeah, sure, who cares about passion? Just rake in the money. But we weren't. So it was like, okay, let's do something that's kind of fun. And when the fireballs land, or if I get to go to the Sahara with an Apollo 15 astronaut, I can go, hey, dudes, take over. I'm out of here.
Right, easier to clear the plates, so to speak.
It's much easier, and so I'm having fun with that. We still sell a lot of meteorites on eBay. If you want a $5 meteorite, if you want a $50 or $500, we can take care of you. We got a presence on eBay. We sell at a few gem and mineral shows. For some, we have some, private clientele that we buy, and we kind of broker and help them build their collection, some institutions, that kind of thing. So we're doing stuff behind the scenes. But, yeah, just if you type in the word on the eBay search engine, Meteorite Steve, 2 words, Meteorite Steve, it'll pull up all our meteorites, because that's in the name of every single one of our items. A few people will have bought something years ago, and then they're reselling, something we sold them. And so sometimes, and feel free to go buy from someone else. Especially if they're selling it cheaper than we are. No, but that doesn't happen that often. But that's where people can find me. If there's somebody that really wants someone wants a big Mars rock or a big moon rock, and you want your best price, you can get a hold of me. I don't know. Yeah, through eBay. Just send us a message through eBay.
Nice. Very good.
And if you want to go become a hunting buddy with an Apollo 15 astronaut, one of 24 men who have gone to the moon, and you want to go on a Sahara safari, and you want to find possibly a moon rock that's worth. There was a 6-kilo piece of this rock found a few weeks ago that's worth over $250,000. So I don't like to throw that carrot out there like
right.
a lottery ticket. But I'm just telling you guys, this is a real treasure hunt. This is the real deal.
Right, and I'm sure that the 6-kilo rocks aren't just laying all over the place, so there's no guarantee, but the potential is there.
Yeah, but it was like an iceberg. Like 10% was showing, and most of it was under the sand. So,
nice.
Yeah. And it'll be a visual hunt. You can leave your detectors at home. There's no metal in the lunar meteorite, so yeah, I bring a magnet along in case you find a normal meteorite. Which there probably are some to be found. But yeah, we're gonna have fun. It's gonna be epic. And I was telling a friend of mine today. I said, if it's between Al Warden finding his own moon meteorite, or me finding my very first moon meteorite, it's on my bucket list. I haven't found one yet.
Oh wow!
If it's a little one, I want Al to find it. Okay. If it's a big one, I want to find it.
Well, and, like you had mentioned, that is just a great story, for an American hero, which hardly even does him justice, but someone who has walked on the moon to be able to go out, find their own piece of the moon, and actually get to keep it. That's just an unbelievable story in the making, and to actually be there to witness it yourself and enjoy the company at night, sitting around the campfire.
Yeah.
Man.
Yeah. And I'll tell you what, I just encourage all your listeners, go to Kickstarter and just watch the 2-minute video. Just that intro of the little banter between Al Warden and myself. It's worth the 2 minutes just to watch that little exchange there.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And I know that people have shared the link to the Kickstarter a few times in the chat. and I just threw it in there again. It's also on my timeline. I believe it's on the Beyond Sight and Sound radio page. So hopefully we can generate some activity that direction.
Hope so.
And by all means, keep us posted on how that goes. I would be very keenly interested in hearing how things go over in the Sahara, and wishing everyone the best of luck and continue.
Sure, and you know, and any of your friends that are on Facebook, just if you want to friend me, I've got my Meteorite business, but I have myself personally there too. Just go friend me, and I'll approve it. And you'll hear me scream all the way from the Sahara if something fun happens. So we'll report back.
That will be awesome. And like I said, definitely wishing you and the rest of the group the best of luck out there.
Thank you.
Well, I certainly appreciate you for taking the time to drop in. I'm sure we've kept you quite a while now, longer than what you had originally anticipated.
Yeah, well, I'll go check what the Cowboys score is here in a minute.
Well then, always easygoing, good way to be. And for the listeners, you know, you want something easygoing, there's a contest that just launched on the Beyond Sight and Sound radio page while we were live. You should go and check that out, especially if you're a Deus user or you have a friend who is a Deus user. Other than that, I think we're probably going to roll on out of here, Steve.
As they say in Hollywood, that's a wrap.
All right. Well, I appreciate you for being on. Continued success, and stay in touch.
I will do.
We'll see you. Well, folks, hopefully you found that rather interesting. I know Steve is always a great guy to talk to, very energetic about meteorites, and just an all-around great guy in general. Check out the links. You can find them there on the Beyond Sight and Sound radio page on Facebook, and have a good time with it. Hopefully you enjoyed the show. We are, in fact, back. Things seem to be working quite well, and we do appreciate everyone for hanging in there with us last week as we battled our latest hurdle. Not real sure what happened there, but looks like we've got things under control again. So, we're going to get on out of here. Until the next time, as Leighton says, keep it low, keep it slow. I'm sure he would have liked to have been here, but he's with us in spirit. We appreciate it. For all of the rest of you, have a good evening, folks. We'll see you next time.